Roy Hodgson steps down as Oliver Glasner is announced as his instant successor to the role as manager of Crystal Palace. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, today's video is going to center around the big breaking news that is surrounding Crystal Palace right now. And that is that Roy Hodgson has stepped down as Crystal Palace manager this afternoon. And Oliver Glasner, formerly of Frankfurt, has instantly replaced him and has succeeded the very experienced manager as being his replacement at Selhurst Park. Massive turnover, but one that was somewhat expected, but maybe not in the kind of circumstances that we are reading about this afternoon. We're going to be talking all about Glasner, we're going to be talking all about Hodgson, we're going to be talking all about Palace and everything else in between. But before we go any further, we'd like to remind you to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and very greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you all to get involved in the comment section down below. Let me know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it in regards to Glasner, Hodgson, Crystal Palace and everything else in between. I'm sure we'll all make for great and interesting reading, so I encourage you to get involved down below. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk this whole Crystal Palace situation this afternoon. Like I say, the writing was on the wall for a while that Roy Hodgson was in some serious hot water. The pressure was mounting. He needed to turn results around quickly. The surprise here is that, well, I say the slight surprise here is that the Palace board didn't do this themselves. This is Roy Hodgson's choice. He has stepped down of his own accord. And of course, the reason for that is obviously health issues. His personal health has been taking a turn. This isn't the first time this season we've heard about his health coming into the forefront of footballing matters. I think he missed a game earlier on in the season because of his own health. Obviously, he was taken ill at a training session last week. So it's not the first time that his health has been called into question here. And it's the right thing to do maybe for him. Relieve the stress of football and to just retire and enjoy what he has for right now, with all due respect and everything. But that's where the line of niceties draw, because although he is seen as a gentleman, although he's seen as a very experienced footballing man, and a very nice person, and a lot of people say a lot of good things about him, and a lot of people have a lot of respect for Roy Hodgson. Even a lot of the current players of Crystal Palace still have respect, despite the fact that things haven't exactly been going their way in recent weeks. We sort of knew that him being gone from Crystal Palace one way or another was going to happen. And one of the key things as to why him stepping down is significant is because in Crystal Palace's eyes, they kind of see him as someone who should have gone a while ago. One of the key points in what a lot of reports are suggesting and what a lot of reports are stating about Roy Hodgson is that a lot of the people on the Crystal Palace board thought he should have been gone months ago. The way that obviously things have panned out in terms of his personal health and everything coming to the forefront, I don't exactly think it was a comfortable choice or an easy choice to make because of those things, but football is football, and Roy Hodgson will know that as much as anyone. And of course, he stepped down of his own accord. So we know that obviously there are other factors to be considered, and other factors that couldn't have made this decision and this whole overall choice an easy one. And obviously the choices beforehand of basically, we know that Hodgson was in some hot water beforehand. We'd heard rumours and whispers that Palace were indeed searching for a successor to Hodgson, considering life after Roy Hodgson, but they didn't see anybody as being suitable to take on that role and to be his successor instantly. Obviously, things have had to play right off the bat here, and things have obviously had to be adapted to very quickly. And that is why we've had this ever fast and growing storyline of tonight, where Hodgson stepped down and Palace have instantly appointed a new replacement. Hodgson leaves Palace 16th in the table, just 2 points clear of the drop zone, a drop zone which will shift a lot tonight, you would imagine, when Palace themselves are in action taking on Everton. So to add another layer to this big story, Palace are in action tonight, and the era after Roy Hodgson begins against Everton at Goodison Park for your 8 o'clock Monday night viewing. A very intriguing tie that will have big consequences for the bottom of the table as it currently stands, with Everton a win away from potentially leapfrogging Palace in the Premier League table, and Palace 2 points clear of the relegation zone, but could put 5 points clear of them in the drop zone when, or should I say, if they manage to get the job done against the Toffees tonight. Big consequences going into that one. A lot of stuff on the line for that one. A big relegation 6-pointer potentially for both of these sides. And it all kicks off tonight. The new era of Crystal Palace, the without Roy Hodgson era, and the Oliver Glasner. I don't think he'll take charge tonight, but I think that because obviously everything's worked out so quickly, but I think he'll be obviously in attendance tonight to look over his new team that he is going to be taking care of for the immediate future at the very least. Look, for me, like I said, the writing was on the wall for a while. One way or another, Hodgson was leaving. Palace were in bad form. Palace weren't playing great football. Palace had a number of things going against them, whether it be injuries, whether it be this, whether it be that, to make Roy Hodgson's job so unstable. And I'm surprised it did take this long, in all honesty. I did think he'd be gone maybe a few weeks before this. But of course, this was more on his decision rather than the club's decision, due to obviously, like I say, his personal health. So it does make it a little bit difficult to talk about. But like I said, I see this as being the right move by him personally, for his health and for everything and for his family and everything. But I don't think it should have came to this at all. I really don't think it should have come to this at all. When he came in last season, when Patrick Vieira's role was becoming unstable and the Vieira experiment was coming to a head and it didn't quite work out the way that Palace had hoped for, he came in and he steadied the ship. He steadied the ship, he got everything going again, he kept them going till the end of the season, and I thought that would have been great. He's been reappointed at a club that he left. I didn't really see the point in him being reappointed, but when he steadied the ship and the gamble paid off and Palace finished in a comfortable position, I felt that was a great way to ride out into the sunset of retirement. Finish your job at a club that you admire, a club that you love, and a club that loves you all the same. And then they decided to offer him another year. And although that when he first came in, Palace were winning games, they were being thorns in the side of the big boys in the league, as they normally tend to be. And they were winning games and they were scoring plenty of goals. And they were obviously gathering the points to make them into a very comfortable position in the table. I just felt that, that was a great way for him to ride out into the sunset. But then that short-term offer came in after all of the good and positive stuff that Hodgson did as a temporary manager. And then it hasn't quite worked out since. And obviously, following on from the points that I made earlier in the video about how his personal health came into question, following on from the stuff about the Crystal Palace board expecting him to be sacked a long time before this decision has actually been made by him personally and not necessarily by the board. They're saying he steps down, whether that, you can read into it however you like, steps down, sacked, whatever you want to call it. It was probably going to be one way or another he was going to leave anyway. But there is talk from a number of reports, and particularly from The Athletic, that Roy Hodgson's position became unstable because of the actions and things of Roy Hodgson. Now, you can look at form, you can look at performances, you can look at results. Those are all things that have to be taken into consideration as well. But beyond that, scratch the surface a little bit. And what they are reporting on is that Hodgson's actions in terms of the way that he sometimes threw his team or certain members of staff from the Scientology and physio and medical side of things under the bus through comments he made about how he was told he could play certain players here and certain players there and certain players for this long and certain players for that long, and he played them and they all picked up injuries. That was something that they saw as Hodgson as deflecting blame and passing it on to them. From an experienced manager, it's a bit weird. From an experienced manager, it's a bit strange that that would be the case. But that is what they saw as deflecting blame, and that's what they did not like at all from Hodgson. They just saw it as him passing on the blame as to why Palace were having such bad luck with injuries. But they looked even deeper into it, and they saw that the lack of intensity in training, or what they perceived to be the lack of intensity in training, was a reason as to why they were picking up so many injuries. They picked up a lot of injuries this season to a lot of big name players, the likes of Mark Gahey, and I know Decore picked up a big injury that's ruled him out for the rest of the season in a game, but there was also other training ground injuries too. I think Mateta's picked up a 1 or 2. I think Eze's picked up 1 or 2 here and there, and a couple of other big name players as well that are in the ranks. They saw it as a lack of intensity in training that wasn't building them up properly for a match day. And that they saw was Hodgson's doing and Hodgson's way of management that caused that. And a big player in Michael Elise, of course, the way he was managed was another big factor as to why they grew impatient with Roy Hodgson. They point it down to the fact that Elise has had a couple of injuries that have stop-started his current campaign. Even going back to last season, I think he had 1 or 2 injuries that stop-started his campaign. But this season in particular, having just come back from an injury, Hodgson decided to play him as a substitute in a game that Palace were being beaten pretty comfortably. I believe it was the Brighton game. They were losing 3-0. He throws him on as a substitute. He then picks up an injury straight after being thrown on as a substitute. Not great for one of the talismanic players in your team. Now, I get it from a Crystal Palace standpoint. Elise is a fantastic player. A lot of talent, a lot of quality, a lot of potential. He is a guy that's highly rated. He is highly sought of and is being looked at by a number of big clubs in the Premier League in particular. He is going to fetch them a pretty hefty transfer fee should they decide to cash in on him, and should obviously one of the bigger clubs put the money on the table for this guy. So they want to keep their prized asset fit, healthy, not just for what he can provide on the pitch for the present, but for how he can develop and grow, and obviously how he can then fetch them a massive transfer fee for the future to come. If they see him mismanaging them, that's going to hinder their prized asset. That's going to hinder a prized asset that is going to produce them a lot of money going forward. So I understand why they would be a bit annoyed about of the development of him, and obviously how he's handled that situation. There just seems to be a lot of things that from an experienced manager just seems to be a bit strange as to how he ran things during this season at Palace, and maybe it is a sign that maybe it's age and things like that of that nature, with all due respect to Hodgson, of course. But like I keep saying, I reckon last season would have been the perfect way to bow out. Bow out, you steadied the ship at Palace, you've laid the foundation for something to be built upon, because let's face it, this new manager, Oliver Glasner, he's walking into a team that has got a lot of talent there. There's a lot of talent there that needs to be unearthed. Yes, there are some areas that need strengthening. Of course there are. There are some areas that can be improved upon. Of course there are. But for the most part, this team is a decent blend of experience and raw talent that can be built upon and can be produced and can obviously have something to look at and something to grow upon. Because there's a lot of promising young talent here. And we've already named a couple of them, in Eze and Elise in particular, but there's the likes of Mark Gahey and a few other names to be mentioned in that list as well. There's a lot there that can be looked at and that can be seen as being, you know what, I can work with this guy, I can work with these players, I can work with him, and I can really unearth that talent, and I can build something off, and I can build here, and I can build there, and I can strengthen here and strengthen there, and I can get rid of these players because they don't quite fit. There's a lot there that this Glasner guy is going to be able to work off with from Hodgson, but I just think this could have all been avoided had Hodgson A, left when things were going good and things were on a high, and B, if Palace just had the guts to just go, thank you for steadying the ship, but we're going to continue to look at going forward with the club in a more forward-thinking approach, a much more longer-term approach, because with all due respect to Hodgson, again, he never was going to be a long-term solution. And that's where I think Palace went wrong in this. I don't think anybody is completely blameless in this, but at the same time, I still think it could have been avoided had Palace just not fell in love with Hodgson as much as what they did from that temporary standpoint of him being the sort of interim manager towards the end of last season. Again, another example of not falling in love with your interim managers, because it never normally ends well. It doesn't normally end with them winning a major trophy, a domestic cup, or even a league title half the time. Ask Manchester United with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on that one, for example. But I digress. What I'm saying here is that it probably should have happened earlier, but Hodgson stepped down. I hope everything is okay in terms of his health and everything, because he does seem to be the perfect gentleman in today's modern game, and he does seem to still have a lot of respect from those that are around him, from even some of the Crystal Palace players. I know that Palace fans haven't been happy with the way that their season's gone. I know that they are demanding change. I know that they were not happy in any sort of way with the performances and the results that Palace were getting. But maybe this Glasner guy can come in and change the fortunes of Palace around. Now, I don't know too much about him, admittedly. I don't know the ins and outs of the way he plays and everything. But what I do know is that this is the guy who took Frankfurt to the Europa League title a couple of years ago. Very incredible achievement. Not many people were expecting Frankfurt to do it, but they did it at the expense of Rangers in the final, albeit thanks to a penalty shootout. But Frankfurt were brilliant during that campaign, and he did very well to do that. So I'm not going to say too much, because like I said, I'll be lying, I'll be guessing, I'll be ill-informed if I was to guess the ins and outs of this guy's style of play and the way it sets up and everything. So I'm not going to say too much about Glasner. All I will say is that this guy's got a lot to work with. He's got a lot to work with. He's got a lot of raw talent there. He's got some interesting players, some intriguing ones that I will be sure to be intrigued as to how he wants to work with them and how he wants to help their development. He's got some areas to improve upon, of course, but it'll be interesting to see for the most part what he does with this squad. And overall, like I say, Crystal Palace fans, are you happy with this appointment? Are you happy to see Hodgson leave? Are you happy to see Oliver Glasner walk in at Selhurst Park? Do you think this is a good appointment? Do you think this is a bad appointment? Let me know in the comment section what you guys think, your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings. I'm sure we'll all make for great and interesting reading, because like always, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings of this guy. So I want to know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll all make for interesting and great reading on Hodgson, on Glasner, and Crystal Palace as a whole. Let me know what you think and feel. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up and enjoy the video. Subscribe if you know want to see more content like this. Both things are always and be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video, and I'll see you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever it may be. Cheers, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your night. Have a good one. Stay safe. Take care. See you again soon.